As you just may have heard, this meeting is being recorded. It is open to the public. The recording will be available on the website. And I would ask any members of the public who are attending to please mute their microphones. There'll be opportunity for Q&A later. I'd like to welcome Deputy Commissioner Elizabeth Wohlers to we're honored to have you here to our meeting today. Thank you for attending. I think I'd like to turn it over to you guys. I don't have a full screen of all the faces, so if you guys could kind of help me out with the introductions for the rest of the team, I'd appreciate it.
Sure thing, Ed. Thank you. I'll get us started here. I'm Brian Steinmuller, Assistant Director for the Division of Land and Water Resources, and part of my role is to help staff and coordinate the Wood Products Development Council. And I will turn it over to Tim Sheldon next to introduce himself.
Yeah, Tim Sheldon. I'm a climate policy analyst with the department here, and I, along with Jeff and Brian, assist with managing the Wood Products Development Council.
And next, Jeff Kehoe.
Yeah, thanks, Brian and Tim. Jeff Kehoe, Ag Protection Specialist with the Division of Soil and Water, and I help Tim and Brian support the council.
Okay, next on my list, I have Allison Stark.
Hi everybody, Allison Stark. I'm a Senior Director at Empire State Development, and I work with companies in the agribusiness industry that are looking to either expand or locate in New York. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Next, I have Benjamin Palick, Farm Bureau.
Hi, everybody. My name is Benjamin Palick. I'm with the New York Farm Bureau. I am a agroforestry representative on the team, and I work on state and federal issues. And this is my first time at this meeting, so it's a pleasure to be here with you all.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Next, I have Eric Kina.
Hi, everybody. I work with the Division of Ag Development in the food export program. So I figured I would hop on and see what you guys are up to, because we, as New York State, are a member state of an organization called Food Export USA, or Food Export Northeast is the region that covers our state, obviously. And they have recently opened up to wood products as part of their branded program, which helps get like American products exported to foreign markets, and they cover like 50% reimbursements, like a cost share funding program that supports exporters. So
Wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, good to hear that. Next, I have Ian Chrisman.
Morning, everyone. I'm a forester with DEC, and I work in the climate section of the private lands utilization and climate forestry section for the Division of Lands and Forests. And I'm just looking forward to supporting the team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. Good to have you. Next, I have John Bartow. John?
John Bartow with the Empire State Forest Products Association. And I didn't get the details on that export market provision, but if somebody would post something in the chat on that, that would be great to find out more information on that.
Yeah, Eric, are you able to do that for us?
absolutely, yep, I can put some links in there.
Great, thanks, Eric.
They can kind of introduce you to like the program without having to join right away. One of the things that we do is we try to find, compatible companies in the state that, that are interested in exporting, and kind of bring them over to Food Export USA so that they can register with them. Registration's free. They have a lot of educational resources that are free as well, including an online course. And being part of that branded program does have like an application fee, and any company that would be applying would submit like a marketing plan. But there's, I think it's about like 2 years before Food Export USA expects, an exporter or like a potential exporter to really be entering foreign markets, so they can still, as part of their branded program application, include domestic trade shows as a way to kind of interface with potential buyers. And they have like a kind of a 2-year window to focus exclusively on domestic activity and kind of learn about exporting before they're expected to participate in like buyers missions and trade shows and trade missions in other countries. So
Yeah, anything you can send us for background and how to get a hold of you, Eric, that'd be great.
Appreciate it. All right, let's see. Next I have Julie Suarez.
Good morning, everyone. Julie Suarez, Cornell Cal's Associate Dean and Director of our Translational Research Programs. Nice to be here today.
Wonderful to have you. Next I have Mike Hanlon.
Good morning, I'm Mike Hanlon, president of Cotton Hanlon Incorporated. We are a hardwood timberland company that own and manage 33,000 acres, mainly in the southern tier of New York.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike. Next I have Molly Hassett.
Hi, everyone. Molly Hassett. I work at New York State DEC in the private lands utilization and climate forestry section. Excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next, Olivia Burns.
Hi, everyone. I'm Olivia. I'm with the department, working in the Land and Water Division as well, with Brian and Tim and Jeff. I'm mainly on here because I'm new to the division and I'm trying to learn, again, what everybody does and the different aspects of the things that we do here. So I'm going to be mostly an observer today. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Olivia. Next, I have Pauline Boyer.
Good morning, everyone. I am the outreach supervisor for NICAM. That's New York Center for Agriculture, Medicine, and Health. And I'd like to thank you guys for inviting myself and Erica. We're going to tell you a little bit about our organization this morning.
Thank you so much for being here. Next, I have Ryan Staycook. Not sure if I pronounced the last name right.
Yeah, that's Staychak. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ryan Staychak, and I work as an extension support specialist in the Cornell Ashley School of Global Development and Environment. Just here to listen and learn, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next, Scott Moxham.
Good morning. Scott Moxham. I'm a forester with the Department of Environmental Conservation, working alongside Molly and the private lands utilization climate section.
Welcome, Scott. And next I have Erica Scott.
We'll keep the Scots going. Hi, everyone. I'm Erica Scott. I serve as a deputy director and work alongside with Pauline at NICAM, the New York Center for Ag Medicine and Health. And yeah, you'll learn a little more later. So thanks for having us.
Of course. Thank you so much for attending and for presenting to us today. I see Chris Covey just joined. Chris, you've got your audio set up.
Yeah, hi everybody. Great to see you. Apologies for the delay, and I'll be in the car for a period of this. I had hoped to be on a train, but that didn't work out. And so I'll mostly be listening, but excited to be with you all.
Wonderful, Chris. Thank you. And last we have Elizabeth Walters. Elizabeth, if you'd like to introduce yourself and brief welcome to the group.
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm Elizabeth Walters. I'm Deputy Commissioner here at the Department of Agriculture and Markets, and I get to oversee the Division of Land and Water, Plant Industry and Animal Industry. I also have the honor of serving on the advisory board for the Commissioner for NICAM. So I've known these lovely ladies for quite some time in multiple roles, and we are so blessed to have all of the work that NICAM does to help keep our ag producers safe, and just so happy that they could come and talk to you all today a little bit about what they do in terms of safety on farm, and they also do some work in the forest and out on boats and in the Northeast region. So it's a great group, great resource to have here in New York and in the Northeast. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion today. So I will turn it over to whomever's next. I don't know yet.
Okay, thank you. Ed, I think we're up to review and approve minutes from the last meeting.
All right, very good. Thanks for your help with that, Brian. Okay,
course.
how about a motion? The minutes were attached to the invitation. How about a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion carried.
Wonderful, thank you. Hey, Tim, next couple of slides, and then we'll turn it over to Eric and Pauline. So just as a reminder, today we have a very full agenda, a lot of great presentations today, and some old business going back and reviewing some of the conversations and products that we discussed from previous meetings. So I'll do our best to try to stay on task and on time. There's this copy of the agenda. Just also wanted to quickly run through, these are our Wood Product Development Council appointees. We still have 3 vacancies that we continue to work on, but very happy that we've got a full quorum and we've been meeting regularly now every quarter for the last year and a half or so. Next slide. And just as a reminder, the enabling statute for the Wood Products Development Council and why we're here, we shall work with the wood using manufacturers to increase the economic contributions and employment opportunities related to the practice of forestry and manufactured wood products in New York, giving priority to increasing private investments in working forests, maintaining access to working and family forests, coordinating policy and permitting issues with state agencies, academia, and private sector. That is why we've got such a broad partnership here on the line today, and invite various perspectives and state agencies to come and talk and listen to the work that we're doing. Working to improve public understanding of and appreciation for forestry and forest products, and increasing the export and market opportunities for New York forest products. So again, thank you all for being here, and look forward to the discussion and the presentations. Back to you, Ed.
Okay, it looks like next up we have the NICAM folks. Erica, Pauline, you're up.
Sounds good. Well, we appreciate being here. Thank you for the warm welcome, and nice to see some familiar faces and also to meet some new folks. So if we can get this together, I'm going to share my screen too. Hopefully everyone's seeing full screen view.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Very good.
Yeah.
Pauline and I are going to hand this back and forth to each other as we go through. We were hoping to use our half hour to give an overview of our organization, but leave time at the end for questions, discussion as we go through. So you're going to come into the woods with us at NICAM. As Elizabeth gave the little intro, we do a lot of work in agriculture. And in our minds, agriculture also includes forest products and working in the woods, as well as on the sea and in the ocean. So we had brief introductions. As I mentioned, I currently serve as the deputy director here. I've been very fortunate to be with NICAM for this August will be 17 years. And I came from a background of occupational health, industrial hygiene, and actually did some of my master's thesis work on assessing fatalities within the tree work industry, so both in forestry and logging, as well as in arborist and tree work. So have had a long-standing background in this area. So Pauline, I don't know if you want to give a little background to your journey to NICAM.
Yeah, Phil, again, thank you for having us. And I've been with NICAM for just about 10 years now as the outreach and education supervisor. And I have worked at Bassett Medical Center, which NICAM is a part of, for the previous 10 years. And I come from a dairy background. I'm a farmer, former dairy farmer. So I bring that lens into my role as supervisor.
Thanks, Pauline. So we'll do some high-level overviews, just starting with our mission and sort of the background. So NICAM was written actually into public health law in New York State in 1988. We started this program here, as Pauline mentioned, at the rural hospital here in Cooperstown in the early 1980s, when our co-founder was a pulmonologist seeing patients come in, farmers with lung issues, et cetera. And we really dove more into okay, if they're coming in and they're sick, how do we prevent them from becoming sick in the first place? And we've really carried on that mission to enhancing agricultural and rural health more broadly by preventing and treating occupational injury and illness. And in the picture on the right, you can see that is our two co-founders, Dr. Pratt and Dr. May, who have really set things in motion for the past almost 40 years. So we said we're based in beautiful Cooperstown, New York. We're about 2 or 3 miles outside of the village of Cooperstown in a old farmhouse. We're very, very lucky to have a nice spot out in Fly Creek, New York. And we have a staff of almost 40 team members, and that's across many different areas, and that we'll get into in a moment. However, we also have another name, which gets confusing at times, but our other hat, as we like to say, is the NEC. The NEC is our shortened acronym for the Northeast Center for Occupational Health and Safety in Agriculture, Forestry, and Fishing. And what that means is since 1992, we have been a center of excellence federally designated by the CDC through the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health to study and research safety and health solutions for those industries, ag, forestry, and fishing. So with that work, we work a lot in New York State, but also have the ability to work outside of New York State. And our jurisdiction, as you can see on the map, is Maine all the way down through West Virginia. We cover, with almost 40 people, in addition to contractors and partners that we work with, we cover a whole host of activities, research, training, healthcare provision, health screenings out in the field in every imaginable place you can think of. We have a case manager on staff. We provide mental health counseling, work in partnership with some great programs like Julie has out at Cornell, like FarmNet, and the Cornell Ag Workforce Development Council. And we provide personal protective equipment, train young clinicians and young public health professionals, and just pretty much every day are focused on how do we preserve food systems, preserve the forest products industry, and the people that are working in these industries. So I think to set the stage a little bit, and we've said this a bit, but we're part of a rural community. It's really special and very unique about a center like ours is that we're not at, in an urban place. We're actually living in the place that with the people that we're serving. We're part of that nonprofit hospital. We're nearly entirely grant funded. So as we like to say here, we eat what we catch, and we're very active in pursuing opportunities to support these industries. And we really pride ourselves on being practical and making sure that our research, programming, solutions are really tailored to the needs of the workers in these industries and are going to work on the ground and not just in an academic setting. And I have to say, most of the people, as you've heard already, Pauline came from a dairy background. We have, of the staff here, a lot of folks with ag backgrounds, forestry backgrounds. I think the people that work here have family members in the industries and just really are passionate about what we do. So let me head on. A few approaches that I want to tie in from the other industries that kind of speak to the ethos of how we do things is one example is the National ROPS Rebate Program, which really started in New York State here, assessing what's the #1 cause of fatality among farmers, and that was tractor rollovers. We did all of the formative research to understand why don't farmers have roll bars. Tractors last a long time, and we've gone all the way through all of that formative research, creating a program that really works. I've documented lives saved, and now we're incredibly proud to say that that program is included in this version of the Farm Bill and hopefully going to be available funding nationally for farmers all across the country. So that's just one piece. That photo on the right, I have to say, the farmer operating that tractor survived. That tractor crashed through 2 levels of that barn. There was one tractor that was in repair. They decided to use a different tractor, and the farm worker didn't realize the weight differential when they were driving into the top of the barn. And that roll bar kept that tractor away from the stone wall, as you can see, preventing him from being crushed. So again, a practical solution, and thankfully we've had many, many more stories like that. An example in commercial fishing is the fact that many commercial fishermen never used life jackets. And again, the #1 cause of fatality there was going overboard and not being able to be rescued or getting back on your boat. So we went from fishermen telling us in such colorful language of getting away from our point, we're never going to use those, to in the course of this research project, ports calling us up and asking, when are you coming? Because our fishermen are asking for these life jackets. And we've gotten reports from the Coast Guard of increased life jacket utilization after this project. And this has been taken over by a community group on the coast that is still providing this service. So really exploring the ways of like, why aren't things working and how can we make them better? And I think the third example, I'm going to hand over to Pauline to talk a little bit about something local to New York.
Yeah, so we'll continue on with our John May Farm Safety Fund program, which was named after one of our founders, Dr. John May. And this program really developed right from scratch from NICAM. It was an idea, I believe, that Julie Sorensen had. And we do, we're research heavy, so we like to ask questions on why and how we can help farmers. And it was very clear that farmers want to be safe. They want to do the right things, but sometimes it's a financial burden to make these improvements and they just don't know how to go about them. So again, this program was developed. It's a cost share program to and make safety improvements. And we do have a cap of $5,000, but up to $5,000, we'll pay half of the, we'll reimburse half of the cost. And you can see from this nice little map here that this started out very grassroots and it was strictly fundraising. We fundraised and took donations from folks for the first several years. And then we were fortunate enough to get on New York State Ag and Markets line item budget. So we do have even more help for these farmers to make these safety improvements. So Erica, if you want to, go on there. We here at NICAM rely heavily on the hierarchy of control system. It's a great approach where the best solution is to eliminate the hazard. And this program directly does that by allowing these farmers projects that can, if not eliminate them, it's, go down the line, a substitute or an engineering solutions. And this program, it's very unique in the fact that we go case by case on what is going to help that farm be safer than what they were. And we have we made this program as easy as possible for farmers to apply and go through the process. And this slide does show several different projects that we do, anything from putting in new silo ladders to the beef industry. It uses this to get animal handling system, the squeeze chutes there, which is definitely improves safety. You would not believe the stories we hear with folks still trying to wrangle a cow with a rope around their neck tied to a tree. And we'll do electrical upgrades. We've done dock railings in the aquaculture industry and even safety harnesses in some other businesses. So, and we have an impressive number of projects and awards, and we've seen a tremendous growth in this program, and it's continuing to grow.
Thanks, Pauline. I'll switch to the next slide. And while I'm doing that, I'll mention that we've heard from many farmers that have participated that they are more productive in their operations because of these safety improvements. They can either, expand, they have fewer workers, they can, do things more efficiently. So I think for the business model there, it's been a really great thing as well.
Definitely. Thank you, Pauline. Yeah, and so we do support the forestry industry for several years. You can see that we did participate in subsidizing game of logging for farmers. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that game of logging process, but it's an outstanding safety course. And we did subsidize classes to make it available for more folks because we did have grant funding to do that. But we have since kind of gotten away from that and focused ourselves more towards being able to serve the forestry industry directly and the farmers for several reasons. The game of logging was very time consuming in administrating our process. And we've kind of found that a lot of farmers didn't have the whole day that it took to commit to this course to do that. So we've kind of branched out. We're now doing health and safety curriculum specifically for loggers. And we also have some chainsaw safety workshops now that we developed for farmers. They're a small 2-hour workshop that we can come right onto their farm and do for them and get them the basics of chainsaw safety. We have worked with the Maine Logger and Health Study from 2016 to 2022, and a lot of that research was directly pulled into creating our new health and safety curriculums for loggers. We do research on industry health and the safety trends, and we also do health screenings at various shows that we go to, the expos and the Woodsman's Field Days, and etc. So we primarily for the last 40 years we've been in existence have done a lot of agriculture work. And so we're taking all of that knowledge and experience, and we're moving forward trying to help the forestry industry more.
Thanks. And yeah, you'll spot Pauline and I out and about in some of these photos, but we wanted to give a little taste of some of the things that we've done. So as Pauline mentioned, we have had the ability through both of our federal funding through CDC, as we mentioned, working regionally. We've had some opportunities to have larger research grants that have looked at health and safety in particular industries. We had that one project, particularly in Maine, because of the sample size that we needed. So in terms of employment numbers, that is why we applied for Maine, and we weren't trying to ignore New York by any means. But we've done other work in New York State as well. And I just want to highlight some of the industry connections that we've had and kind of fostered over the years. So we've had the pleasure of working with John's group at Empire State Forest Products related to some of the training and first aid, logger CPR. Certainly we've had partnerships, as I mentioned at the outset, with Cornell University. Peter Spallage and the Arnott Fornes had been a great partner in host sites for game of logging, a lot of the cooperative extensions as well. In terms of research, we recently applied as a subaward with Penn State on a USDA grant looking at retooling sawmill operations, and our role there would be the health and safety component of it. And I think in particular for that, we're interested in seeing this shift in sawmill workers and the language factors, that we have so much experience in working with farm workers and doing bilingual trainings and trainings in Spanish. We see that as potentially a growth opportunity. And we've connected a lot too with sort of the more national level, trying to hear what's happening, workforce development trends, et cetera. So have been integrating more with American Logger Council, with, Woodsman's. We have a research partnership with West Virginia University, and even with W.J. Cox. So I think, Ed, this might speak to you, but with Kevin Brown and whatnot, we've been connecting in terms of kind of hearing and sharing back and forth. What do we need to understand from either side, as well as the Council on Forest Engineering. So that again is the research side, but what can we learn from other places around the country and adapt and model here as well. So things that have our attention are things that you guys are probably well aware of. And I realize I'm speaking a lot about just the logging industry. And I think that had been our focus initially because of the fatality rates, the hazards associated. That's not to say we haven't done work with foresters. Pauline and my colleague, Dr. Mandy Rome, had a tick-borne disease project looking specifically at foresters and comparing. So we've actually done some work in that area as well. But in terms of like reducing fatal injury, the things we are abundantly in our face, again, this is no surprise. Lack of health insurance was a big one. I think it was a real challenge for a lot of the small operations to operationalize that for their workers, not that they don't want to do it. And because of the change into mechanization, there has been a reduction in fatal and non-fatal traumatic injury. However, I think many of you could speak better than I can. Logging is not the same as what your granddad did or what great grandpa did. And so much more operation and sitting in a cab has had other health effects in issues in terms of cardiovascular effects, heart disease, et cetera, obesity. So we're paying attention to all of those things. one fun piece that we actually did, which was very educational as well, was what's the nutrition component of this? Something we don't always think about. But if you're working in the woods and you're in a rural place and you don't have hardly any time, it's not always easy to, eat the things we know we should eat. Like, we're trying to explore that. And again, what could work for this industry. The picture on the right is one of my favorite, got heartburn at lunch and took the time to send us a great picture. These are photos submitted from loggers in our project. So Pauline, I think, is going to give a little overview of some of the work that we've distilled down from that research into some new curriculum.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we did. We took that research and we talked to loggers in Maine, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and New York as well about what their needs are. And we've developed this new health and wellness approach. This is not a typical PowerPoint for safety training. It's interactive, conversational health and wellness program built by loggers for loggers. And our focus is to keep loggers healthy, satisfied, and working safely long term. So we do use interactive tools to make this more engaging and exciting for folks. And we did pilot this with a group of Connecticut loggers, and we had a class of 49 folks, I think. And we did get 35 post-training surveys because, NICAM, we're always into the research and how we can make it better. And the response was tremendous from this pilot. So we got a lot of feedback how we can make it better. People were interested in it. And Erica had put in this slide, I probably can't read that words there, but that was a letter that the Professional Timbers Association, Producers Association sent to us, thanking us for coming, and how the conversation from that was talked about for days later. And even folks that didn't attend it were talking about it from talking to others. This particular one, we talked about blood pressure, and opening up that conversation is not always easy, but once you give them the venue and make it private so they don't have to answer if they don't want to out loud. We use Mentimeter so that they could use their phone and be anonymous. And once the conversation got started, people really opened up. And it is a fact of life. Logging has changed. You're now seeing more hypertension and musculoskeletal disorders and sleep deprivation. We've all, so we have created sections for each. We can do trainings individually, or we can combine them and do one longer training on this. But we're very pleased to pilot this, and we hope to continue to make more safety and health trainings and continue to grow the program. Can go on to the next slide.
Yep.
Oh,
I think
that
this
one's yours.
is just a quick snapshot to say that, part of the research process is also getting, publications out to other professionals so they can be used in other contexts. We're doing that, but more importantly for this is getting the word out to the industry. I mean, it's one thing to write a research paper. It's another thing if anybody ever reads it and what comes of it. So we do try to be practical in getting word out to the industry. So we've really leaned on, trade publications. We have a very active Facebook Northeast logging page that we had over 700 loggers following us on that, and being able to post information directly, and certainly meetings and conferences. That QR code goes to a video that we were really fortunate to be able to have produced. Our hospital corporate communications actually supported that a couple years back. And it's a nice overview, more focused on the study that we had up in Maine, but it's a nice overview to understand of sort of how we interact with industry and work in partnership to get things done. So I think we wanted to kind of end on sort of bringing up to speed of where we've gone, both in agriculture, in the forest products industry, and some of our thoughts about like where we would like to go in the future, or what could be next. So Pauline talked a lot about the John May Farm Safety Fund program. We do have an inkling of like, could that model work for the forest products industry to support safety solutions in that industry? We have a sense of what's going on in New York, but I think we could probably do a better job of that and sort of doing an overall needs assessment for the state, again, focused on the health and safety side of things and the well-being, productivity side. Pauline mentioned the logger wellness training. We would love to be able to expand modules and look at new options for CE credits there. I already spoke a little bit about the idea for, increasing Spanish language materials for the sawmill industry. Tick-borne disease research, we're really looking a lot into that and giving the in-woods work. We have a wonderful partnership right now with Cornell Ag Workforce Development on onboarding materials for agriculture. So say you get a new employee, you have regular scheduled safety trainings, but it's not going to be for 3 months. What materials do you have to kind of get that person started, as opposed to just, it's important to partner them up with someone there, right, that knows the ropes, but what other things could be setting their baseline knowledge at the very outset? We're doing that for ag. That maybe potentially could be helpful for forest products. I think you guys will know best. And then certainly emergency response training for forest products, the stop the bleed, first aid, CPR, etc., is something that we have wonderful trainers in-house that see some future there. So just a few smattering of things, just to kind of, get the wheels turning. But just, with that, I know we have maybe a little over 7 minutes for chat time, but QR codes to our websites, and just, like I said, really appreciate the opportunity to come chat with you today.
Thank you. Very well done.
Thank you.
Questions, comments, folks?
I'm going to stop my share in a minute. I can. Great.
I see an opportunity here. There's some overlap in what we do at WJ Cox, but I see an opportunity here for collaboration. The last census I had on loggers in New York State was from, I think it was a DEC study in 2020, said that we had 940 loggers in New York. WJ Cox has about 780 of them. They can't be in our program unless they're engaged and committed to safety. And we have all kinds of training modules for loggers and sawmillers, for that matter. We got another 1,000 plus in the sawmill sector. But what we don't have is the wellness side of it covered. So I could see some real collaboration there, because it's very important that these folks go into the woods or into the mill in good health, in good state of mind. And that's a little beyond our purview. So I see some real opportunity there.
A great point, Ed. In one of our classes that we were doing, we were giving this information back to the loggers that participated in that research study. And, we had 30, 40 guys sitting in front of me. I said, how many of you know somebody that has had a heart attack in the woods? And like half of the, hands go up. And, it's not only a case for loggers by any means, but the issues that relate to that really are different when you are working often alone from a very far place, difficult to rescue someone. So a lot of our other research that I didn't even talk about tracks occupational injury and things like that. And we understand what it takes to get EMS there. So if we can prevent that from happening in the first place, we would love that.
Yeah, very good.
Thanks.
I think one of the advantages that NICAM has is that we do know, the right training and information to tell folks, but we're also in the real world with them and understand that, what may be recommended is not always doable. So, we like to promote doable starting points, make a little difference, and build on it for the health and wellness.
I would invite you to, we have a newsletter that goes to all, we have over 3,000 employees in our group, and we have a newsletter that goes to them and their families. This is important, because we were hearing from our employers, they don't listen to me. My workers don't listen to me. Well, everybody listens to somebody. And look, I've been married for 50 years. I get it. So we started sending this information, safety and health information, to the household.
Yeah.
So the families are seeing it. So then now we're talking about health and safety around the kitchen table.
Yeah.
They're listening. They might not listen to their boss, but they're going to listen to the wife
Yeah.
or the husband, you know, or their kid. So I would invite you, if you'd like to put together some kind of an article, we could include it in our newsletter that goes to over 3,000 employees.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful opportunity. We really appreciate that. That makes me think of two things. So one, in the fishing industry, we work often with the Fishermen's Wives Associations, which is a thing in those industries.
Yeah.
And two, often at Farm Show, and we've done it at some of the logging expos, is we offer hearing screenings. We bring our hearing booths to audiometry, and we always put a sign out front that says, "Ladies, we can't test your husband for selective hearing." So.
Just a quick question, Ed. You had mentioned, there's a bit of a gap between, those in the organization and those that are covered under WJ Cox. Can you speak to that and in what accounts for maybe that gap in coverage or participation?
Well, I'm going to say that the 120 or so that are not in our group are basically single operators who are electing not to buy workers' comp insurance.
Okay.
And they may have employees that they're calling independent contractors, but they're really not.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a dodge. So we get frustrated by those guys because eventually they will end up in our group if they get serious about doing it the right way. And we'd like to see that they are properly trained. So we would welcome any program that offers training for folks like that. On the other hand, if a guy's not even serious enough to get insurance for his organization, I'm not sure how serious he's going to be about attending a day-long safety training like game of logging, for example.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully we could work something out where the NICAM program would address that gap.
Yeah.
And I don't think that includes, there's a lot of Amish loggers out there now, and I don't think that gap includes the Amish. They're kind of in no man's land. And some of them do our training and some of them don't.
Yeah. And that's a group that we've also worked with pretty extensively. Amish, plain Mennonite and Baptist sects. So I appreciate you asking that, Brian, and it is helpful to hear that. Pauline alluded to the fact that we had done interviews across the Northeast, including New York, and that was something that came up over and over again from the loggers is, they view themselves, they want to be viewed as professionals from landowners, from the general public, as they should be. And they feel like that's not always the case because of some, operations that might be a little more fly by night. So I think, things that enhance the professionalism that kind of, set the standard for when they're, going out is it's really, really critical. And that public perception piece, I think, we have a very interesting perspective on that in terms of land stewardship, all of that. It's like, these guys are doing the right thing and they want to see this perpetuate for many, many generations. And I'm not sure everybody else always has that view.
Well said. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for the time.
Yes,
Any other
thank you
comments
so
or
much.
questions, folks? All right. Next on the agenda is the urban wood utilization presentation.
Ed, do you mind? I'm gonna jump in and introduce. Thank you, Erica and Pauline. That was very important, and I'm sure we'll hear more from you. Thanks, Ed. I want to jump in and introduce Joe Ferrara from Sound Designs in Nassau County. I got a cold call one day from Joe, just talking about what we do as a council, and as we kept asking one another questions, I feel what he's going to present to us is in lockstep with what the council could be supporting. We're not fully staffed yet as a council, but the one thing that we can't forget is value added or artisanal woodworkers. And I think Joe has a fascinating story to tell in a high value market. And it's one of the things that's one of my, that I selfishly want to promote and put in front of the council as it relates to utilizing urban wood waste and things like that. So Joe, as soon as you're ready, take it away.
All right. Thank you for the intro, Jeff, and thank you everyone for making time for me to be here today and present. So yeah, next slide, please. We'll just dive right into it. I know there's a packed agenda today. All right, so I just want to start with a quick intro. So I'm Joe Ferrara. I grew up in Queens, spent most of my later years in on Long Island, and I actually was fascinated with woodworking from an early age. I guess I'm sort of a second generation woodworker. My family owned a company back in the 70s where they made live edge tables and out of California redwood that they brought over. And so I kind of grew up with those pieces in the house, and I was always fascinated by them. And as I started to study art and things, I wanted to get more involved in that. And I happened to have a job, about 10 years ago where I moved to Seattle, and Seattle had a lot of great training programs for all different types of arts and crafts, especially related to woodworking. And so I was able to study woodworking, joinery, hand tools at the Pratt Fine Arts Center in Seattle, which is great. And that's kind of where I got started in this whole process. And then I built my first live edge table. There's an interesting story in an apartment, a walk-up apartment in Seattle, and sold it there right before I moved back to New York. And it was kind of a thing where I started thinking, wow, when I go back to New York, I really want to start sourcing my own lumber. I was reading about how they're reclaiming urban trees in the city of Seattle and working with municipalities to do that. And I thought it was fascinating. So when I moved back to Long Island and settled in Glen Cove, I had the idea of like, wait, there's a lot of, if any of you have been to the North Shore, especially like near my area, there's just a ton of trees. It's very wooded. And there's a lot of old estates from the Gold Coast era that are still largely intact, which is a beautiful thing. And unfortunately, when a nor'easter comes or you have a tropical storm, there's a lot of trees that are knocked down. And so after Sandy, I remember seeing large trees on the side of the road going into the wood chipper and thinking, wow, there's got to be something we could do with this material. And so fast forward years later, I just started, I had this idea, wait, there's all this material around me, more than I could ever use probably. I just have to start calling people. And I went on Facebook Messenger and started messaging nature preserves and arboretums and saying to the caretakers, hey, I have this idea, I want to rescue material. And then the next thing you know, it's happening. So that's really our mission at Sound Designs, is we want to turn this material that would otherwise go to the waste stream into valuable heirloom furniture. Next slide, please. And so I kind of jumped into how it started. So I was still working full-time in a healthcare sales role, but the good thing about that is I did have a lot of time on the road. And so, of course I had the hands-free, I can call people and while I'm stuck in traffic and talk to them about this process. How are we going to drive the wood? Where are we going to source it from? And it ended up being a lot of useful time for me to develop this. And so we started off with the first arboretum sourcing material. And then after drying it carefully for a year and finding a kiln that was actually very difficult to find, a kiln that would take our material and dry it so that it was properly dried. And we were able to quickly just start making things and posting it online and have my first customers. You can see this is one of the table here. The coffee table is one of the first I built. That's near some Gold Coast estates. And then below that is a restaurant in Brooklyn, which was kind of our first big project. So we're always, proud to share that. Next slide, please. All right, so how are we scaled? So as you heard of the humble origin story, right? And so now we're in a situation where we have, more of a mature business. So it went full-time in 2023. And to really get the word out, I started with a strategy of just meeting as many people as possible and kind of the right people. So I looked for, markets where I could sell higher ticket items potentially to clients. So I started doing art shows in the Hamptons and farmers markets and doing that every weekend for about 3 years until I really built up a good mailing list and good contacts. And so we were able to grow that over the years through diligently posting on social, building up the website, and getting a blog going and kind of writing about the process of recovering urban wood, or I guess in my case, suburban wood. And we found that this resonated with a lot of people. There's a small segment that really think this is cool, what we're doing, and that they want to support it and they like the story. We're always telling the story of like, this tree came from, a place in Seacliff, or this came from an arboretum, or it was knocked down by the power company. So I find that telling the story transforms that wood from a commodity into now all of a sudden it's a piece of furniture with a story, and it does add a lot of value and it connects people, could really resonate with them. So yeah, so I took on additional help in 2025 after we started scaling. And so next slide, please. and I have my first employee. He's still working with me. He's great, and we're continuing partnerships. So this is how we're seeing the business grow. So, as I mentioned, there's no shortage of urban wood. We could go around collecting logs all day and milling all day, but I don't know if we can keep up with that pace. But we're building quite a bit. Like right now, we have 5 large live edge tables in process, and a bunch of smaller projects. And we just delivered a 30-foot conference table to the U.S. Army in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And so we're taking on quite a bit, and this is certainly just since January more than, the pace is much faster than it's ever been. So that's a good thing. And we're expanding, our online presence and continuing to sell the live edge pieces, which is where really we got our start, and that's kind of the thing that we love to do. And we're also doing cabinetry because I have a cabinet maker on the team, and so we've done that to supplement our business. And I've also done some large scale projects, as I mentioned. And really what I see in store for us in terms of scaling the operation is we do have right now enough physical space. We're in a historic building called the Pratt Oval, and there's a lot of space on the grounds that we could utilize. And right now no one's utilizing it. So we want to have a solar kiln there on site, a portable one, so we could move it around as needed on the property. And we do have plans that we found online. There's some good university plans that are freely available. And having the sawmill there. Right now we have a sawmill that's in East Setauket that is operated by my friend, and he has his own separate business, but we work closely together. And we want to partner with governments, local governments, to source material from public lands like parks and roadsides and things like that, of course, with their permission and their approval, and really do things the right way. And then we want to have a showroom too, which I think is something that we're working on because we have a lot of customers being kind of close enough to the city and to the Hamptons. We have customers that kind of pass through and they want to see pieces and want to see examples of the type of material and hear the story. So we need a better space to showcase that, I think. Next slide, please. All right, so challenges. And, I want to address some of these. I guess they're not specific to sound designs, but I guess to any operation, downstate, of course, the space is very expensive. The closer you get to the city, it's at a premium. So that is a barrier to entry, as well as the cost of machinery. You do need a lot of machines to run this operation efficiently. And I guess the opportunities, though, I think outweigh all of this because, as I mentioned, there's abundance of material. There's a huge demand for handcrafted products. So I've been following this carefully, and I think I actually wrote a blog post about this. I think as more of our lives move online, there is more of a demand for handmade things. It's like we're kind of, in a sense, that's moving in the opposite direction that the rest of the culture is. So it's kind of interesting. And you're just seeing that in many different aspects, not just with wood, but with pottery and all types of natural products. So I think that's really interesting. So proximity, I mentioned, to large markets, and we're one of the few custom furniture companies within Nassau County. So I think there's probably other parts of the state that have great markets as well. Certainly, like in the capital region, and I've been all over the state too. So I think there's pockets where you really could have similar operations. And since we're selling locally, I for the most part, I don't think we're necessarily even competing with each other. We're kind of, we influence each other, I guess, as other makers out there, and I think it makes everyone better. So I'm interested in, contributing in that sense to the industry as overall, and kind of developing this. So next slide, please. All right, so selling outside of New York State, as I mentioned, it's interesting. A lot of our clients are in Nassau County, and I think that's because when they go on Google, we pop up, and then they want to come and meet us, and it's very personal, and we're building stuff for them. We do have some from Suffolk as well, and of course, Manhattan and Brooklyn for a lot of the interior designers, and occasionally outside of New York State. So having just done that big project in Kentucky, it kind of opened our eyes to, wow, there's a much bigger market than just New York, and if we could reach people online, and we could either ship it or drive over, there's good opportunities out there. And I think the same would hold true for woodworkers in other parts of the state. It's actually not that expensive to ship. After we drove this over, we looked at how much it was, and it's really inexpensive to ship large projects like that. I would say it's economical. So there is an opportunity even for people building larger pieces like us to have a national market, which is really cool. And I think from the perspective of other woodworkers utilizing urban wood waste, Smaller items you could sell. There's so many places to sell it. You know, like you'll see crafters making spoons and a million different things. You really could make anything. And if the smaller, the easier it is to ship. So there's obviously you have a national market there. So I just wanted to touch on those things. And then I think is that the last slide? Let's see.
That is, yeah, that's your last
Okay.
slide, Jeff.
Yeah. So I think we're pretty good on time. Jeff, do you have any time for questions?
Yeah, we do. We do. I would encourage anybody, attending to ask Joe. We do have potentially 15 minutes to fill up. If there's not many questions, we can move on. But yeah, I'm personally interested in what you've got going on. Any questions from anybody?
Joe, how many employees do you have?
So right now, I have one person who is, I would say he's almost full-time now. We're working on he's about 33 to 35 hours a week. And then I have another person who works with me, I guess on a project basis. That's the cabinet maker. So he's kind of transitioning into retirement. And so I'm taking over part of his, some of his work, and he's helping me with my project. So we have a good relationship there. And I'm taking over the space. So it's a large space that we have. And so he's kind of transitioning out and I'm transitioning in. So we have a good launch, I think, where I don't have to take all this on at once, which is cool.
Now, you touched on this, there could be opportunities in other urban areas. Are you aware of anybody else who's doing the kind of thing that you're doing around the state?
Yeah, there's definitely some upstate. There was one other prominent one on Long Island. They just moved out. They moved to Florida. But so I think right now we're one of the only ones. But there's definitely some in Albany I've seen. I don't remember their names offhand. And I'm pretty sure there's at least one or two in Rochester and the surrounding towns.
And essentially, it's an effort of reclaiming wood rather than going out and harvesting from a public or private forest.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you have a social media presence and you start talking about this, like I've done, you'll get inquiries from homeowners that'll say, "Hey, we just bought this house and we're cutting down this large walnut tree because it looks like it's going to fall on the house and branches are coming off." And so then my step would be, okay, which tree service are you working with? And I would call the tree service and I would make arrangements, say, okay, can you guys kind of come and mark up the tree? And when you cut it, get it onto the truck and I'll pay you to bring it to the sawmill. And that gives the tree service a little bit of extra and prevents them from having to dump the material. And sometimes I've even chipped in if it's a really special tree to help the homeowner for having it cut down. So I said, look, if you're going to do this anyway, but here's some contribution and just let me keep the material.
And the sawmill that you're working with, they're sawing for other entities as well, right?
They are, yeah. And right now, I think he really wants to focus on sawing for his own business, which he's kind of taking on like specialty projects like timber framing and I guess maybe more artisanal projects, like one-off things that he's commissions. And if I give him a lot of notice, he'll take material from me.
Thank you, Joe, for joining us. I'm Brian Steinmuller, Assistant Director for the Division of Land and Water Resources. I work with Jeff and Tim. You had said that there's no shortage of urban logs, and certainly, where you are in Nassau County. Do you have a use for, what might be lower value logs or trees, or can you speak to that, like how you actually select the trees that, you want to work with?
Sure. Yeah. So when I first started, I was limited basically to walnut because that's what most of our commissions are. There's a lot of requests now for white oak, which is harder to find where I am. But I'm definitely open to, I wouldn't say it's the lower value wood necessarily, but black locust is great and it's really good for outdoor projects. So I see a lot of potential there. One thing that we've been promoting heavily is ash because of the beetle, the emerald ash borer. So there's a lot of those trees coming down, and I think the wood is beautiful. It's great in so many different applications, and of course it takes stain really well. So you could pretty much do anything with it. And so we're trying to promote that as an alternative to white oak, and it ends up being, you could use it in similar ways, but it's more economical. And honestly, I think it looks better. That's just my perspective, but other opinions differ. But yeah, so there's that, and then we've even sourced really rare types of wood like katsura, which is a Japanese tree, but a lot of people have them as ornamentals. sometimes American elm. We got lucky with one of those trees once, and a few others. So I guess the softer woods like pine, I don't have much use for furniture building, but for if you find timber framers or other types of woodworkers, there's definitely a market for that. They could use that for something for sure. Thank you.
I've got a question for you. So there's been various surveys of New York State municipalities that clearly show they have a wood waste problem, and there's an expense to get rid of it. But again, those municipalities, through insurance policies and long-standing contracts, are likely bound, to treat a wood in the same way that they treated it the day before. Have you interfaced with municipalities, and when you do you find that you have access to that wood, you or others, or where are you exclusively working with private landowners in the removal of their trees?
I would say almost exclusively with private landowners. We removed some material one time from a commercial site, obviously with the blessing of the landlord, but mostly it's residential properties. I did reach out to, like, for example, I remember the town of Oyster Bay, to a councilman who was posting about all the trees that were down by the storm. And they said they couldn't move them because they were worried about insect problems. And I said, really, even within the county? And that didn't really make sense to me, but I was like, okay, I get it. But I did reach out to the city of Glen Cove and let them know, hey, if you see any permits come in for any of these types of trees and you think they're a nice specimen and they're coming down anyway, let me know and maybe we could do something with it. And we haven't been able to set that up. One time we kind of missed each other. I was out one day, but anyway, I think there's potential there. They're not always earmarked. I think a lot of times they do go to the dump or they end up as wood chips, which can be used for things, but we'd rather make furniture with it if we can.
Sure, and I'm going to have one final thought. So I think about this maybe a little bit too much, and Scott, maybe you have some insight on this. So let's move. Let's imagine we have access to low non-preferred species, not high quality species from the built environment. If you look at the amount of wood that a municipality uses simply for utility, for projects or for sidewalks or for stakes or tree protection and so on, I bet you some municipalities are spending six figures a year on wood from Canada. And I just see that there's an opportunity there, whether it's communities setting sustainability goals for carbon or recycling. And I don't know. That's something that I think would fall into what we do as a council. I would love to learn more. I mean, Scott, I understand New York State is signed up for part of the Urban Wood Network. Do you know how we interact with the Urban Wood Network at all? No, it's kind of an online resource.
I haven't had a lot of access or discussion in that realm, so I'm not sure. I know that would probably be falling more to some of those discussions with our urban team.
Okay, good point. Good point.
But
are there any other questions?
Something we want to discuss more.
Yeah, Chris Covey here. I'm sort of curious. I think when we get at a bunch of, we're talking about a lot of municipalities. There's a lot of waste out there. I'm interested about the sort of pinch points in scalability, and so I hear a lot of, I heard this was coming down, or someone reached out to me, or I called this. So there's clearly this pinch point around actually locating the wood, but then you have to sort of organize on a case-by-case basis. How am I going to get this individual tree company to put it on a truck to bring it to this place? So that sounds like figuring out that logistics piece would be key to scaling. But I wonder what other sort of barriers you have to seeing this as something that could operate, not just in one place in Long Island, but at this sort of state scale where it could start to make a broader impact on, wood waste for municipalities. Is there enough sort of market pull for various things? So as in, is there this sort of overhang of demand for the high-end furniture that could pull on some of that, or is that also sort of establishing the market is one of the sort of limiting factors to growth? So it would just be interesting to hear from your perspective, what are sort of the handful of sort of throttles on this that keep it from being widely adopted?
That's a good question. Well, I think first you need to have some utilization. Like you need to be able to use the material, right? So I wish I would have shared. There's a picture of me with the material just from one tree, and it's tremendous. Like how much you can get from one large tree, and how many pieces of furniture you could build. So you really have to have an operation that is doing volume, and I think we're starting to get to that point now, and where you could scale it. So I think if you had furniture companies or makers that were sort of more into like manufacturing smaller items out of wood, you could have kind of regional distribution centers. Like we're positioned well, I think, for one on Long Island, but in other parts of the state too, around probably on the outskirts of the bigger cities, you could have a few of those and have municipalities coordinate to drop off material. So in my location, we can't accept logs. So what we could do is wait till we have a large enough collection of logs in the back of the building to have a truck come and bring it to the sawmill. So that would make it easier. So you can get smaller loads, I guess, coming in, and then wait until you have a truckload to go out to a sawmill. And also, if you have a network of regional sawmills, you won't have to travel that far, because really the traveling and the gas and with fuel costs, you want to limit that as much as possible. So I think that's one model, is maybe having regional partners in each region in the state that could do something like this.
Do you find that having metal in the woods or needing specialized equipment, let's talk about, magnets, metal in the wood, solar kilns, are those limiting factors for your growth, or talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, I think, well, we definitely want the solar kiln. That's the first thing that we could do, and I think it could be done fairly inexpensively with the plans that I found online. So that would enable us to just do everything on site, basically. And like I said, we have the space, so we could do that. As far as metal, occasionally we'll get material with metal in it, but I always inspect the logs beforehand, so I look for signs of that. So like with white oak, it's pretty easy to see. You can kind of tell in walnut too, sometimes you start seeing black marks. So I'll reject those because I just don't want to deal with it. I learned the hard way in the beginning when we had some beech logs where the sawyer was saying, we're going to be here all day changing blades and it's going to cost a lot of money and you're going to get a few nice boards out of it. I'm like, okay, I think we're going to have to give up on this one. But yeah, that's definitely something you want to be aware of, is the selection. So I think you have to be selective and know what to look for in terms of the logs that you're bringing in. And I wouldn't bring in any with really obvious defects, because like I said, there's a lot out there, and at this point, why waste your time with something that's not optimal?
Mm-hmm. I guess final thought that I have is, or final question is, it sounds to me like the story is one of the more important parts of the marketing. And if a removal contractor were to be able to track the logs to some degree with a location, maybe a story, that seems like that would be value added for that removal contractor too, because sure, you can interact with the municipality, but they're preoccupied, and really, if you've got a removal person who is familiar with what the value added team, the sawyers, need, they might be able to preserve length and curate really good quality products that can be maybe sold at a value to them too. So there's a lot to it. I'd be happy outside of these meetings to continue the discussion with anybody that has an interest in it. I've done a lot of thinking on this, and Joe, I really appreciate it. Does anybody have any other questions?
Well, if not, Jeff, I think you hit, oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
No.
Jeff, you hit on I wanted to close the three key takeaways. One is tell the story, like you said. So thank you for that. It's not a commodity, I guess is number two. So, you know, by telling the story, you're making it special. And then also connected to a sense of place and like being really connected to your city, your region, and telling that story. And I saw a lot of that in the Pacific Northwest. Like that when I was living there, that was a very big deal. And that kind of influenced how I tell the story of sound designs. And I think it's a good way to differentiate your business and what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, we're pretty good on schedule here. We're going to move on to the DEC, Advancing Forest Market Grant Program.
Right.
Molly?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Molly Hassett. I'm the supervising forester for our climate change and carbon team here at DEC. So yeah, I guess I'll get started. So we released our Advancing Forest Markets program last month, the very end of last month. We just had a webinar last week on May 5th, and that will be posted in the next few days, which will be really helpful for folks as well. And some of the information I'm going to cover today will also be covered on the webinar, but the webinar does go a bit more in depth in a lot of the different facets for applying to the program. So the purpose of our Advancing Forest Markets program is to strengthen New York State's forest economy through projects that encourage innovation and expansion in products, development, capacity, and market access, as well as increase the affordability and availability of tree seedlings for planting to advance the statewide goal of planting 25 million trees. There's up to $46.2 million in market incentives available. Next slide. So this funding, there's no match requirements for this grant opportunity. And we have 3 grant opportunities nested within the broader like Advancing Forest Markets grant itself. And we plan to award about $4 million to each type of opportunity. I'll cover those more in a couple of slides. So applicants can submit up to 1 application for each of those 3 types, so really technically up to 3 applications. And each application can be $100,000 to $12 million. We're going to be accepting applications until August 5th. So there's still several months for folks to put together their projects and applications. Projects have to occur wholly within New York State, and all deliverables have to be completed pretty rapidly by January 15th, 2028. And this program was originally a Climate Smart Commodities grant that we got from the federal government, and it's been amended, so now it's in the Advancing Markets for Producers program. Next slide. Thanks. So this is just a really wide view of our timetable. We're planning to post that webinar sometime this week for folks to view it, but we also have biweekly office hours in case folks have more specific targeted questions that we can answer. So we've got a webinar. The next one is next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then we've got them kind of every other week. I will say the question and answer period ends July 29th. So that's like when we have to stop answering everybody's questions. So it's best to get started looking at this grant if you think you might be interested sooner rather than later. That way we can still work with folks and answer questions. We're hoping to award the grants in October 2026, hopefully get contracts executed so projects can get started by January 2027. Next slide. So for all of these programs, all the applicants have to be able to establish a farm service record or farm ID with the USDA Farm Service Agency. In addition to that requirement, there's different eligibility requirements for each of our 3 different programs. which I will cover in more depth later. We expect to see a wide variety of applicants to these programs, and we also are encouraging new operations and businesses to apply as well. Next slide. So for establishing farm service records with the Farm Service Agency, typically entities that own, lease, or operate farmland for agricultural or forest production can establish farm records with the FSA. That includes nurseries and landowners who own more than 1 acre of forest land or own an acre of forest land that can become forest. So typically it has to be somebody who owns land though. Applicants do not need to have farm service records fully established for us to actually award these programs or to apply, but we are encouraging applicants to at least confirm with the Farm Service Agency staff that they can establish farm records, because for us to actually award a contract and give funding, they will have to have a farm service, a farm ID, and those records. I will mention that the FSA staff can only provide information on establishing farm service records. They cannot answer questions on our grant program overall. So if you have questions on the AFM program, please come to DEC. Do not go to the Farm Service Agency. Next slide. So really, I guess, brief steps for establishing farm service records starts with contacting your local FSA county office to schedule an appointment. I would encourage calling your local office. Some of them have been closed or might not have the proper staffing to handle folks coming into the office. I know they've had a lot of positions let go or otherwise, not staffed. So just call ahead. Don't just show up to their office, please. And usually you have to fill out a couple paperwork, and then you have to also go to the office and meet in person with FSA staff to complete some additional paperwork and bring your proof of identity, a copy of a deed to the land, any copies of agricultural leases or rental agreements, your entity identification status, business documents, trust and estate documents, partnership documents, and if it's an entity, you'll also need some kind of proof of your signature authority, just saying that you can sign on behalf of your organization. Next slide. All right, so for these opportunities, our first opportunity is the 25 Million Trees Nursery Discount Program, where we are reimbursing and incentivizing nurseries that offer discounts on high quality trees for retail sale. The second program is Growing Reforestation Opportunities, or GROW. That program is meant to incentivize the expansion of native tree and seed production capacity, specifically folks who work on collecting, processing, germinating, storing, propagating, and growing of trees, and others who support that supply chain. And the third program is the Tree Market Boost and Revitalization Program, or TIMBR. And that one's kind of similar to GROW. It's incentivizing expansion of the forest product and commodities markets, as well as just production. The TIMBR program, applicants have to own at least 1 acre of forest or lands that can become forests. And if there's businesses or other operations that target forest management, reforestation, maple syrup, agroforestry, any other like tree and forest-based markets, it is open generally to those folks. Next slide. So how the payments are going to work. It's going to start with an enrollment incentive payment of $2,000 to $10,000 after we actually award and move to a contract executed between DEC and the organization. And that $2,000 to $10,000 is going to depend on how much money is applied for the grant. And typically the organization would receive that after getting that FSA number. And if they already have an FSA number, that is okay. They would still get this enrollment incentive just for also submitting all the paperwork that DEC requires. In addition to that, we are also doing quarterly performance-based payments, which will be contingent on progress towards whatever performance measures are proposed by the applicant. So this grant's a little bit different than grants we've done before. Instead of paying for like itemized costs, like reimbursing, the costs of supplies or specifically costs of hiring somebody to do something, we are paying for the outcome of what is actually occurring. So we're paying for some sort of performance measure that people who are applying are going to tell us in their application. And I will also just mention that what's applied for in the application, like the structure of those payments, some of that can be modified as we move to contract execution. I know it'll be several months after applying before we actually move to award, and things can change a little bit. And partial funding may be awarded as well. In the case that like an applicant doesn't quite meet the number of performance measures they say they will meet. And an example is if somebody applied for $100,000 for increasing their seedling sales by 100%, but the grantee was only able to actually increase their seedling sales by 50%, we could still pay $50,000 for the performance measures that were met. Next slide. All right, and I'm going to jump into the different opportunity details and examples. So our first program, the 25 Million Trees Discount Program, I'm not going to focus very much on this program, I think, for this group, but I am just going to go through at least this slide. That program, the goal is to increase seedling and sapling affordability and increase demand to help us reach our 25 million trees goal. The program is going to reimburse seed and sapling discounts to customers, up to 70% discounts, plus it will provide an extra 7.5% incentive payment on top of that, just for program participation. And the applicants can use that money to invest in their operations or in marketing, kind of in any way they choose. So the growers will sell high quality trees at more affordable price to their customers, and will get a differential between the discount and retail price that will be covered by DEC. The trees sold have to be native trees sourced from an appropriate provenance to where they're being sold. And we're hoping also that there will be some extra commercial connection to the 25 Million Trees program. We'll be providing like a little bit of advertising to send out with those trees to hopefully get them onto our tree tracking tool. Eligible bidders for that program will be individuals, municipalities, Indian nations or tribes, quasi-governmental entities, authorities, public benefit corporations, for-profit, non-for-profit entities, all of whom grow and sell trees, and of course, who can register for the FSA Farm ID number. Next slide. Phew.
Can you take a question now?
I can take a question now.
So in the case of the the GROW program, must you still own at least 1 acre of land?
So the GROW program, you will still need to own some amount of land to register with FSA, but we didn't define 1 acre.
So what, like less than 1 acre?
It could potentially be less than 1 acre for the GROW program.
But does it have to be forest land? I mean, can I own a building?
That's kind of up to the Farm Service Agency folks. We left it a little bit broader for this one because nurseries might have different setups, and I'm not sure if something like a greenhouse might be able to
So
be
well, let me
registered
put it
for.
this way. If I'm a nonprofit organization and I'm going to market planting trees, but I own a building, is that going to count?
We would have to leave that eligibility up to the Farm Service Agency folks on whether or not they'd let you register with them.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It gets a little strange because we've got the Farm Service Agency and us, and we've got different eligibility things that we're both looking at sometimes. But good question, John. So this opportunity is really geared at increasing the capacity within the reforestation supply chain, trying to address supply barriers for trees. This one has just that same group I read for the 25 million tree discount program, folks who can register for a Farm Service Agency Farm ID number. For this one, it has to be entities looking to establish a new nursery network or eligible operation who demonstrate that they have had a conversation with FSA to confirm that they're eligible to receive that farm ID. If it's a new business or a new operation, they have to submit a business plan that outlines their goals, strategies, operations, financial forecasting, all of that good information. And individuals have to have an active business license or meet the criteria for new operations and businesses that we talked about above. Yeah, next slide. All right, so some examples for our growing reforestation opportunity. It can provide payments for proposed increase in production, marketing, and other business capacity. Of course, targeting native trees as well. It might include things like hiring new staff, where the performance measure might be staff time that's devoted to some specialization or some increase over time. Or it might be something like creating a network, number of producers engaged, protocols, best practices shared. So this is just a quick example of some of the activities that might be proposed, we imagine, as well as performance measures that might be paid for. But I should say that we're not limited to just the examples mentioned here or the examples in the RFA either. It's pretty open for folks to apply for what they need. And I'm sure we're not thinking of everything that might be, proposed. Next slide. And our third program is a tree market boost and revitalization program, or timber. The goal of this program is to increase the capacity of tree and forest-based production and markets. We do have some priority points in this program towards long-term lasting impacts of the bids on the forest market, reforestation opportunities, low-grade market development, and low-impact harvests on silvicultural operations. So those activities will receive higher points in scoring. And again, this is a performance incentive grant and not a practice implementation grant. So we will be paying for the outcomes, the performance that's made, or capacity increase. We cannot pay for practices directly though. So for timber, the eligible bidders are individuals, organizations, profits, for-profit, non-for-profit, all sorts of folks that own 1 acre of forest land or area that can become forested. And it has to be harvestable as well. And of course, they have to register for the FSA, Farm ID number. Individuals must also either hold an active tree or forest-based business license, or at least like are meeting the qualifications for you have to for business inside New York State. Be an industrial forest landowner, or be able to submit a business plan for what they're proposing to do. Next slide. So similar to GROW, here's some examples of some things we're envisioning might be proposed for in the grant. Potentially things like hiring staff, maybe for planning efforts. Somebody might want to create some kind of, I don't know, low-grade market of some sort, or do some market development, education outreach, and some performance measures that we might be paying for might be like number of plans written, number of producers engaged, number of new markets established, something like that. Next slide. All right, so I've kind of grouped here talking about grow and timber programs because they are similar when you get to the performance measure piece. So in both, the applications have to increase some performance measure related to tree or forest-based markets in New York compared to what's being done now. We are asking folks to submit kind of some information about like their baseline, where they're at right now, as well as where they plan to be for the end of the grant. So we can kind of pay for that differential in performance measures increase, hopefully. Really important for this grant is that narratives and budgets cannot articulate plans to purchase items because we view that as outside the contract scope, like equipment, infrastructure, land, doing practices, because we're not really reimbursing for those or paying for those. We are only paying for the performance measures that are occurring at the end of the contract. And kind of with that, related to that, we're recommending that when folks are applying for the program, that they're describing reasonable and competitive estimates of their costs related to the performance measure achievements inside like broad categories. So maybe including categories for the tasks and activities piece as like capital investment or supplies and material, rather than giving us itemized costs of what the funds will be spent on, like signage, kiln, conveyor belt, asphalt. So just kind of keeping those broad categories, just so we generally know what the costs are. And of course, there will be a cost effectiveness portion of the grant. So if there's like unusually high costs for a performance measure deliverable, they might receive a lower score for the grant. Next slide.
Well, it's hard to see.
I'm sorry.
Just one question on the last slide, Molly. Are you saying that then equipment purchased in the time frame of the grant would not be eligible, even if it significantly increased production?
So we would just be paying for the production.
I don't get what that means.
I think I have, yeah, it's not reimbursement. So the costs, any costs that are going towards reaching that performance measure for the grant, like the output, should be like incorporated into the costs that are being applied for the grant. But we will just be paying for whatever that output is. And if they're, you know, inside the narratives and the budgets for it, they shouldn't be, folks shouldn't be talking about or articulating the purchase of those items that are listed here, like equipment, infrastructure, and land.
Okay.
Molly, having looked ahead a little bit, I think that the Q&A examples that you provided maybe this could help.
Okay.
The question
Yeah.
as well that John had. I thought those were really good, the way you framed those.
Thank you. So I guess if we go to the next slide is just a picture of the project strategy worksheet. I'm not going to go into it because you guys probably can't see it. I will say you need to have like some broad objective for the program. You have to say some tasks that you're planning to do, like if you're going to hire somebody, that would be a task, and then outline your performance measure. And you'll include some cost estimates for each of those things, as well as a few other like broader cost factors, like some of those broad categories we talked about. Those will be incorporated throughout like the costs or what we will be paying for the performance measures. Maybe just go to the next slide here. Also part of the project strategy worksheet, it just will have you outline like your estimated costs per quarter of the grant. So it'd be like winter 2027, spring 2027, etc. until January 2028. So those costs will be just estimated quarterly, really, inside our state financial system. Next slide. All right, and performance measures. This is again just kind of what some of the objectives, tasks, and performance measures might look like and how they might fit into each other. So you might have a task like 1.2 where you're hiring a forester. The performance measure we would be paying for would be X% increase in staff time capacity for reforestation or for some other production or capacity. Maybe next slide. All right, so now we're going to get to some examples that we already have in our question and answers document, which we're working to upload onto our main webpage right now for timber and grow. So again, a lot of the questions that we've received so far were related to the performance measures. And one of the things we've had to kind of restate over and over again is this is not an expenditure reimbursement program. Again, we cannot have applicants articulating plans to purchase equipment, infrastructure, land, or to do practices. We're encouraging folks to categorize their different costs rather than itemize them, and try to make costs for performance measures as cost effective and reasonable as you can. Next slide, I think we're going to get to an actual example, which might be helpful. So one of the questions we had so far for timber was, can we build roads to harvest additional timber within our forest if we need those roads to increase our production targets? So when we're answering these sorts of questions, we want the applicants to focus on the performance measure they're trying to achieve and not to articulate ineligible expenses or project activities. So I think building a road is a practice, so they would not want to articulate that inside their project narrative or have that listed as a task inside their work plan. But they can describe costs broadly, incorporating costs kind of in categories as costs of doing business related to the grant. So if it were to fit for them, maybe their objective would be something like increase capacity to harvest timber within the forest. Maybe they might have some other tasks as well, like hire staff or a contractor to increase their capacity. We'd be paying for the number of staff or contractors hired. They might have another task that's increase their efficiency of their business's timber harvest operations. We'd try to pay for some increase in how quickly timber harvest was being done above whatever they're doing right now. And likely, I think a lot of these projects are going to have like a really broad capital investment category, which might just be like other sorts of costs of doing business that can't be articulated inside this work plan or inside the narrative. And those sort of capital investments will be kind of incorporated into the performance measure costs when we are paying. So as the performance measures are paid for, the costs that are inside like a really broad capital investments category would be also paid for as like performance is achieved through the project. I know we've got some more examples here. Maybe go to the next slide. Oh, wait, you already did. Thank you. So another question we've gotten is, can we use funding to upgrade equipment in our sawmill or in whatever other operation we have going on? And we're giving kind of the same guidance to focus on the performance measure achievement and also not to articulate ineligible expenses or project activities in the project narrative, and kind of use those broad categories. So don't itemize your expenses. Don't say things like saw or conveyor belt or kiln. But you can use like really broad categories like capital investments. So we created an example, which may or may not actually fit the project, of increasing sawmill production capacity as the overall objective of the program. Maybe one of their tasks includes hiring staff or a contractor to help them increase capacity. Performance measure we would be paying for is the number of additional staff or contractors hired. Another task might be investing in the efficiency of the business or their sawmill production. We'd be paying for what percent, like X% increase in the speed of their sawmill processing beyond what they're doing right now. And they might have, again, similar to the other example, some broad capital investment costs that will be incorporated into payments for the additional staff and contractors and for the percent increase of their sawmill processing capacity speed. As those two things are achieved and are increased. Yeah. Next slide. We got a question about, can we fund tree planting and other practices directly? So not directly, for sure. So yeah, those two bullets are the same as the last two slides we saw. But for this project, an example of maybe some objective they would have would increase their entity's capacity to do reforestation. So we wouldn't be paying for the reforestation itself. We would just be paying for like a business's ability to do reforestation. To do that, they might need to hire staff or a contractor to increase how many landowners they can engage or how many acres they can reach with reforestation each year. And we'd be paying for maybe the number of staff that they hire, maybe the number of contractors that they hire. We might pay for the number of landowners that they have engaged or enrolled in whatever they're trying to do. And maybe they're also trying to or can increase their reforestation efficiency, like how quickly they can get projects done. We would just be paying for like the speed of their operations, not actually the operations themselves. So maybe we would pay for that percent increase in speed of their operations. Maybe we would pay for a percent increase in their business's revenue each year, something like that. Similarly, they might have other capital investment costs that might be grouped into a broad category. And, you know, as they're engaging landowners, as their business is making more revenue each quarter, we would also kind of dole out those capital investment costs as part of the performance measures are being paid for. I think we had one other one. It's a little bit obscure, so I apologize for that. So I think this might be the last one. It was asking, this one was for grow. Can we fund for can we use funding for infrastructure improvements that allow our existing nursery to scale up to a larger size operation? Like, can we get a greenhouse? Can we get winter storage buildings or other infrastructure? So I think maybe this one there, I'm looking at the objective. I think maybe I didn't change that into the Q&A. So that's good for me to know. But maybe their objective would just be to scale up their business operation. Maybe to increase their business's capacity, they'd have to hire more staff, or otherwise increase their capacity for sales and production. We would be paying for like the number of staff they hire. We would be paying for, and not reimbursing either, number of seeds collected, processed, and stored. We'd be paying some costs that they propose to us for number of seedlings they propagate, maybe number of seedlings they sell. And they are also able to have some kind of capital investment broad category too. That would be slowly paid for as we also pay for number of seeds collected, number of seeds processed, produced, that sort of thing. Did that help at all, John?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
But in all these grow and timber, there's still that in a minimum of 1 acre of forest ownership that can be managed and harvested.
For timber, there is.
Not for grow?
Grow doesn't have to be an acre necessarily.
Okay.
They will still need to figure out if they can register with the Farm Service Agency.
And did you have any examples of what you're thinking for training or workforce development?
I don't think we did yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but that one could be like number of workshops hosted, number of participants.
But those will also have to be tied to having some land ownership piece as well.
So the entity that applies has to own land.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, the projects themselves do not have to occur on that owned land.
No, I hear
Yeah.
you. So, but if you were a NGO or something, you're going to have to own land.
Yeah, some amount.
That ties back to the FSA ID, right?
Yep.
So that's really, I think, the crux. And we had a brief discussion about this last quarter when we met, you know, as you were developing the program. I thought it was important for you to come back and talk in detail now that it's out to the extent that you can. But I think it's that Farm Service Agency FSA number, which may prohibit other organizational applicants, right? If they're not able to obtain that. But if it's like a sawmill and or lumber yard that also does have their own land and or you know, able to register with
I'm thinking in this
FSA,
case of
then there's an
NGOs,
opportunity.
academic institutions who might do workforce development and training. that land ownership is going to be a challenge. FSA qualification and land ownership is going to be.
Yeah, I imagine there might be some colleges and universities who own land, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that would
NGOs and that,
be.
yeah, it can be.
It's also challenging if you have an organization that has a number of shareholders. That FSA process requires then each of those shareholders to provide their, to provide their social security information and things like that. So if you have an entity that's sort of a family business, that is not sort of separately incorporated in a way, if it's an LLC or something like that, you've got 15 shareholders, then each of those shareholders would need to provide information.
Sure.
I think the purpose of that was that the federal funds, go to essentially that they're used by U.S. entities.
Yeah.
Ali, it seems like the grow portion of this is really aimed at, obviously a long-term effort to improve the wood supply. Did this arise out of a DEC forecast that the wood supply is currently dwindling or in need of a boost?
No, I think this whole program kind of arose because we had the climate smart commodities funding and we needed a way to shift that fund. Like we had to get a little bit creative with that funding. And we did also at DEC and Lands and Forests have a goal of supporting, wood products as well as like kind of broader reforestation supply chain. So it was kind of like, well, what can people propose to us to increase what they're doing with these kind of weirdly limited federal funds?
Yeah.
Understood.
Does the grow portion have any inducement to say that the outcomes have to result in future commodity production?
I think similar to timber, they're not necessarily tied to commodity production. Like if there's something related that's market development or somehow like workforce related, it could be tied to that instead. So
Yeah, but it's still towards commodity production.
yeah,
You're training a workforce, you're training a market or creating a market towards commodity. But if you're planting trees or reforestation, is it reforestation towards commodity production, or is it just reforestation for any purpose?
I think grow is more commodity production focused. It is more the supply chain. I'd have to go back to the RFA actually and like kind of think about that some more, I think, John.
When reviewing the program materials and kind of going back from the last discussion we had, it seems like the timber program track is probably most relatable to the wood products industry and development council, right? Because it's about capacity to utilize wood and sawmill upgrades and other lumber type upgrades. So I was really very interested in that aspect of it for this group, and we definitely want to know how things are going, and then also how we can help get that word out, through the networks that exist here on the Wood Products Development Council, because you got a pretty tight timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you make this slideshow available?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And you get that out to your membership, I think it'd go a long way to help.
Yeah, we definitely will get it out. I mean, we've been putting out anything we can on it. And also, if we'll get you June 10th or 11th, we're going to have a meeting up in Saranac Lake. We'd love to get one of your folks up there. I'll get you that date as soon as we nail it.
Okay, great. Yeah, let us know. I think I had another slide that's all about the state financial system as well. You will have to register for the state financial system.
That's a beauty into itself.
Which is a beauty into itself. Um, so there is a help desk, and I hear they can be very helpful, actually. So just if you are thinking about applying for this program, make sure you register with the state financial system. Don't wait till the last minute. 'Cause sometimes there can be weird quirks with it. So please sign up. And I think the final slide, yeah, it's got the link to our website, which I can also put in the chat. Our DLF grants at dec.ny.gov. That's where we're taking questions for this grant, and the SFS help desk number. So yeah, how am I doing on time? Oh, I'm way past. I'm sorry. Okay.
Great job, Molly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Molly. Thanks, Molly.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, we'll move on to agency and partner updates. Department of Ag and Markets, what say you?
All right, thanks, Ed, and thank you, Molly. A lot of information there. Quick update from Ag and Markets. Next Monday, I'm going to go put some eyes on the Oneida County Fairgrounds, just simply to support the plateau. I'm sorry, it's escaped the Tug Hill Plateau Alliance, and see if we can maybe play a role in supporting the forestry education component of the Woodsman's Field Days. Tom is not here, but I did put together a wide-ranging budget for our tabling promotion. Think if we were to promote and shop around the council, it can range anywhere from $3,500 to $6,500, really depending on the quality and what we ultimately. All this stuff's online. It's very virtual. It's very nebulous until you really get down to it. So that's in the works. That's on par with what other agencies or divisions have spent on similar tabling. And final thought, and John, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I was speaking with the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, and they brought up that there's a Timber for Transit program that was just launched. 72 bridges are going to be structurally analyzed in triage for repair, and then potentially, if their traffic load could support being made out of timber. I have more information on that. Who knows where that's going to go or what that's going to look like, but those are the updates from Ag and Markets. John, do you have any insight on that Timber for Transit program?
Yeah, that Timber for Transit program kind of stemmed out of some work that the Northern Border Regional Commission did too. They had a program that for the last 2 years they've been pushing on Timber for Transit, and I'll send you that, Jeff. And CDRPC picked up on that since a big chunk of their region is in there. And I know that it's Mark, isn't it? The director of.
That's right.
He is putting in a grant proposal. In fact, I owe him a letter on that for putting in some projects. And a lot of them are transit supporting infrastructure. You know, how can we use timber in things like bus terminals and rail terminals and airport terminals and stuff like that. A little bit on some infrastructure, you know, niche infrastructure on some bridges, but a lot on pedestrian, bicycle types of infrastructure that can be made from timber that can be used. So yes,
great. Well,
it's an interesting program.
Share what you can, and I'll be sure to distribute that to the council.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. How about DEC?
All right. I'll just kind of give a quick update on a handful of things. Obviously, the one that we were talking about previous meeting was the update to the 480A regulations. Those are still ongoing. It's kind of been a challenge getting those up, getting things turned around, but we've been having a lot of meetings statewide with the consultants discussing the revisions, hopefully getting everyone on the similar page, and then working with regional staff and the consultant foresters on getting the paperwork updated and creating some guides to help them understand better what will be needed. Trying to look at my notes here. As Molly alluded, or just got done discussing, the Advancing Forest Markets grant opportunity has gone out. We'll be looking at those as fielding questions, and as timeline comes, I'll be reviewing those grants. Regenerate New York, we're still, that route did close in record timing, and we are still going through the grant submissions. Hopefully we'll be finishing those up in the next month or so to let applicants know if they're going to be awarded or not. I was sorry. The Wood Innovation Grants round with the U.S. Forest Service that has closed. I got a handful of interest in individuals applying for that grant, asking for letters of support. So I've completed those, and then we'll be hopefully hearing from the Forest Service as those things progress, but not a lot of much input on that at this time for that, but happy to see that there were a handful of New York companies that I'm aware of that were applying for those grants. And that's all I have on my page, on my notepad. I'm not sure if Molly had anything to add, but I think I don't think I skipped over anything.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions or comments for Scott or Molly? Okay, how about Empire State Development?
And Allison said she had to jump for a noon call, but just want to remind the group that if they know of any companies that manufacture or process wood products that are looking to grow or expand in New York, please send them her way.
Okay.
And Allison is on all of our emails, so you have got her contact information.
Did Cornell slip out also?
I believe so. Julie had to slip out early. And
ESF's not here today.
Nope. So we're on to ESFPA.
John, you're up.
Julie did leave a note.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. Hold on, John. Tim said Julie left a note. Did she leave an update for us?
She did. Yeah, I can't currently see the chat, but I remember she did. If you scroll up, yeah.
Oh, just that for forest owners and foresters on the call, here's where you can find your local FSA office. So she was just trying to be helpful there for the DEC conversation. And yes, more so though, she did say a few updates from Cornell Cals. Sorry about that. I thank you for reminding me. She put an update. Our agroforestry conference in January was a really nice and lovely event. They will have a summary and synopsis of that later in the year, and we'll be sure to send to the group. Monthly Forest Connect webinars continue. The next one is one on managing white pine and forests with DEC, and she sent a link for sign up. We'll make sure that folks get that. Cornell Cal's Workforce Ag Supervisory Leadership Program is starting its next round. While it's titled Ag, similar to NICAM, yes, it's also appropriate for forestry operational employees seeking to work on management, leadership, skill building. Online, available in English and Spanish with a link. And last but not least, great news from our Hemlock program here, and there is only a link. So we'll have to check that out later and make sure folks are aware.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, thank you.
John, you're up.
Tim.
Yeah, so in terms of updates, I mean, obviously we're all anxiously awaiting the budget and see what's in there, but a couple of things. It looks like the Environmental Protection Fund is going to come through pretty much level funding with respect to wood product related funding. Really need to spend our in the rears funds for the Wood Products Development Council, because we're only going to get $20,000 again this year. So we've got to get this $600,000 spent so we can get back to at least our $200,000 a year appropriation. It is getting a little embarrassing every year to go in and say we should be higher, but we got this surplus that we're sitting on. That that's kind of haunting us. So I encourage you to do what we can to get that done. But other things in the budget are looking good. It looks like there could be some new funding for the College of Environmental Science and Forestry on the Mass Timber Institute, which would be very nice to see get going on some mass timber funding. Also, at the federal level, the Farm Bill did pass the House of Representatives. That's very encouraging on some conservation and forestry related funding. We'll wait and see what happens with the Senate. It's going to be very challenging to get the Senate to take up a farm bill in the waning hours as we push to election. But thus far, good things for us in the Farm Bill and the House bill. Nothing too significantly new. There was a real push and continues to be a push for a renewable fuel standard that would include woody biomass that's there. Closing out the state legislative session, the clean fuel standard is getting a little bit of traction. So that could be a low grade market development that could be out there. Some additional funding in the budget, I should mention, and for soil and water conservation districts is also out there. I forgot to bring up. Then going forward, specific to ESFPA, I mentioned the last time, and definitely I'll be retiring as of June 24th. So in the next couple of weeks, we hope that ESFPA will be announcing a new executive director. So in early June, we hope to be a little bit of a transition with a new ED. And then on June 10th or 11th, I mentioned briefly, that date will get nailed later this week. We're going to be doing a North Country meeting with our Sustainable Forest Initiative up in Saranac Lake. I'll get that date out to folks, but we hope to have some discussion on some of the new programs on deer management that are happening in the North Country. I'd like to get some information about this advancing forest markets out there. That's a big area that we could see some expenditure of those monies, and some other topics that'll be up there. So that's a quick update for us.
Thank you, John. All right, any questions for John? Okay, next up is Brian and Chris Covey.
Thank you. Chris, are you still in a good spot to help on this discussion?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
wonderful. Okay. Next slide, Tim.
Should I start off or do you?
Yeah. So Chris, I was hoping, I'm not sure if you can see the slide there, but I was hoping maybe you can just kind of just reframe the email that you sent following the last meeting with the draft concept notes document and the whole concept behind that, pun intended, and then I can build on from there.
Sure. Yeah, I think, really trying to address this, the question that just came up about these unspent funds and trying to build a process to solicit a wide range of ideas, really leverage the networks.
Uh-oh.
This is our statutory mandate. We are considering proposals that are well aligned with that mandate, and that those proposals can have this sort of pretty wide range. We have the ability to make relatively small grants or relatively large grants, and that we would want to, some of the ideas of what the kinds of things we might want to see, or at least how we might think about evaluating them. Do they have the potential to scale, or are they testing new markets, or solving some present state balance, all the state, all kinds of what products represented, whatever that text could be. And it's not necessarily a sort of formal, grant call in the way that we just heard from, from the advancing forest markets with all of these restrictions. It's basically a way to field ideas. And then we can either look and someone brings a great idea, it's pressing, it checks all our boxes, it's not a lot of money. And we can look at that right in that meeting and say, reach out to those folks and for that wonderful thing that's well aligned with what we're doing. Or we could look at it and say, you know, this is kind of cool, but we have a lot more questions. Why don't we send back to them a set of questions and ask them for a sort of longer form proposal? So it's the kind of thing that you know, we really limit what people send us in the beginning. It's a 1-pager or 2-pager or something like that. But just a way to get some deal flow, if you will, in front of the council. And then on the kind of backside of that, not only get some really exciting projects going, but also hopefully we generate enough sort of demand and enough of these proposals that we can sort of go back to the legislature and say, look, we not only did we get the money out the door, but we got it out the door to really exciting projects. We've got really great reporting back from those projects, and we have this overhang of demand from the council of more exciting projects that we would love to fund, but can't because the resources aren't there. And that feels like it could be a really direct flip from where we are now, which is that we have a pile of unspent funds and not a sort of systematic way to field great ideas. And I'll leave it there and just say that I'm sort of interested in what folks think and other ideas and how we could do this better or differently. I just thought I'd throw something out there and see if it spurs conversation.
Well, Chris, thank you very much. And, you know, and having gone back and viewed the recording of the previous meeting, there was a lot of good discussion, a lot of brainstorming, but it was really kind of hard to pin down what our next steps should be. And, you know, having gone back, you definitely discussed an idea like this with the group, and then you know, proactively you know, made it happen by sending that around, you know, shortly after our last meeting. So I definitely thank you again. Thank the entire council for the excellent discussion. And it is difficult, right? We don't have a statute that provides for a mandate on how to grant funds, right? So, you know, we do a lot of things, and, you know, that includes getting people together to discuss, you know, different needs and opportunities within the wood product space, certainly getting the agencies and partners together so that there's a mechanism for collaboration. But we also in the past have done targeted grants. There wasn't a really good you know, system for how those grants were solicited. And I really think that you know, the document that Chris put together is a lot of what we were thinking about, and you know, really needed something to react to. I also was working on a very similar type of document at the same time, and didn't abandon it or put it down altogether, but really picked up, you know, the type of you know, concept notes, pre-proposal, request for information. There's a lot of different ways that it can be framed, but also in keeping with, you know, how the state actually solicits for and procures projects and grants and contracts. So with that, I'll ask Tim to go to the next slide. So since reviewing the initial draft that Chris sent around internally, you know, within the division, and certainly, you know, hearing from a few of you as well after that was sent out, and how much it was appreciated, did review the draft with our council's office, compared it to other efforts within the agency, you know, establishing kind of requests for information, or, you know, what you know, from the industry or from our constituency really is the need out there. So the Division of Land and Water Resources isn't really, you know, all of that experience with a request for information. So we reached out to some other divisions. The front office recently done one on workforce development, which is very relevant, very salient. So we're learning from that effort. But also, you know, realizing that a request for information is a little bit more targeted, right? So you've got a program that you're developing. You want to know what the universe is out there for potential applicants. You want to hear from them, you know, a little bit more about details as you form that program. So I don't know if that's exactly where we are right now with the funding, but, you know, let's look at this concept note, pre-proposal concept, and really great response from council's office. Certainly something we could do without, you know, kind of tripping into other procurement rules and guidelines and contracting rules, as long as we keep it really flexible, right? We don't promise what the next step is going to be. We're not really going to be able to grant funds directly from this, but really more, be able to focus on potential needs and opportunities from the industry. I did send out a comparison. Granted, it was just yesterday. Apologies for the late notice here. We have been working on this for some time, but kind of a side-by-side to Chris's draft to what, we think we could do here that would be a little less detailed, a little bit more flexible, while also kind of, including the eye-catching format. So Chris, you did a really great job with the format as well, I have to say. And that is just a few things, removing the section on funding tiers to allow for greater flexibility with future programs or projects. Removing kind of the 60-day notice for applicants for better alignment with Wood Product Development Council quarterly meeting schedules, and just being more general in how we respond. Because what we could do from the need that we gather is develop requests for applications or develop requests for proposals so that, we actually can sustain a program into the future. We also could reserve the right to be able to work with that particular entity and develop a contract, right? To your point, Chris, be able to receive additional detail and information, come up with a scope and budget, and move forward, with a particular project. But just adding a little bit more flexibility as to what our next steps might be. And, again, adding some additional references to the types of entities that we would want to receive information from, and of course, including county soil and water districts who work so closely with forest landowners and forest management. So making sure that that network could be well represented here as well and be able to demonstrate need. And actually, having just heard from the DEC on the Advancing Forest Markets program, I think there could be a lot of lessons learned from that as well, and maybe an opportunity to develop programs at various scales, based on what the need is and what we learned from that program. So we would definitely want to stay very, very closely attuned to that. Next steps, after having sent out the drafts yesterday and receiving some positive feedback from a few council members already, certainly after today's discussion, welcome even more feedback. We'll continue to work with Ag and Markets Council and fiscal management offices to finalize a version of this, whether it's an open call for concept notes, request for information, or, even a letter of intent could be another commonly, used format. We'd be able to put this out in the state register, so then it's out there in the public domain, and then also send it out through our various networks. Really, the idea here, to Chris's point, is to get a pipeline of needs, get a pipeline of different types of projects and activities. Even if we're not able to contract directly and right away within weeks of receiving, said information, it certainly demonstrates a need, and we can continue to work on a more formal process for how we target those grants. So, again, if we're able to get this through to the finish line, not if, but when, we'd release it, through the council and Ag and Markets and other networks when appropriate. Oh, Ed, I think you're muted.
So it sounds good. It's not as though we're suffering from an abundance of proposals right now. So this is just what we need to get things rolling. I appreciate what you and Chris have done here.
It's all of that thanks and gratitude goes to Chris. Thank you so much. Much easier to react to something on the page than starting it from scratch. Appreciate it.
Any questions for Brian or Chris? Okay, new business, Wood Products Development Council members, reports, priorities, projects, public comment. Anybody have anything that they want to bring forth to the board? I'm not hearing much.
Also, any public comments or anybody who's joined us have anything to address to the council?
Quiet bunch, okay. Hearing none. I don't think there's any further business to come before us, am I correct?
That is correct, but well, we still have you, and you know, we don't have everybody here today, so we might need to follow up with some folks, but we could narrow down a date for our Q3 meeting. And we have reached out to Peter Smallage, who is very excited to host us at RNOT Teaching and Research Forest. With some information there about you know, that facility. And unfortunately, the second Tuesday of the second month, which is something that we kind of were planning for, they're not available. But like to kind of narrow this down a little bit. There's a lot of range of dates that he gave us. August might be a little bit difficult for some with vacation schedules and alike, but if we could, you know, think about maybe not the week of 11th through the 13th, because we're planning a big staff meeting here within the division, but maybe 17th through 19th or 24th through 28th.
Either of those work for me.
And what we might shoot for is probably the Tuesday of either one of those weeks. So I believe that'd be the 18th or the 25th. And given that we don't have a full contingent, we probably will send out an email and try to get a few more voices here for a date.
See if we can get a doodle poll out, huh?
Yep. Yep.
Good. All right, anything else?
Just note that Woodsman Field Days, I believe, is August 21st to 23rd.
I don't want
to. Jeff, you had mentioned that as well.
Yeah.
Conflict.
Yes.
Working around there.
Maybe that week of 17th to the 19th is shaping up a little bit better there for us. Yeah. I mean, it's possible we could go into September as well, right? So Q3 doesn't end until September 30th, but you know, with the research facility and you know, fall semester, we might run into some challenges, but we can pivot.
Well, we could real quick, we could talk to Peter, find out what availability is for September, and then do a doodle poll to the council members.
Yep.
That'll okay. Well, I don't think there's anything left, but John, thank you for all you've shared with the council over your years, and you know, congratulations on one heck of a career. And do you have any plans afterward? Are you gonna stay in the business?
Nothing right now. I got plenty on my plate. So take a couple months just to take it all in.
You're
Great.
not even going to think about it until it's time, right?
That's true. Time to exhale.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you.
Right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll call the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.